I heard that old Mother Leeds already had 12 children. Her husband was a drunkard and could not provide for his family. And so when she became pregnant with her 13th child, she said, "Let this be the son of the devil."
I heard Mother Leeds was a witch and bragged about giving birth to the devil's child. The baby was born with large leathery wings, hooves, long talons, horns and a tail like a devil, and it escaped into the forest.
It killed the midwife, and all the 12 children saw it transform into a monster and fly away.
I heard a gypsy cursed her because she didn't give her any food, and that's why she gave birth to a devil.
No, it was born normal but changed over time. Mother Leeds tried to keep it in the house and nurture it, but one day it killed her and escaped up the chimney.
No, it was during the Revolutionary War. The town put a curse on her because she fell in love with a British soldier, and so their child was born a monster.
Whatever the origins of the story, the creature became known as the Leeds Devil and has been seen over the years in the Pine Barrens and throughout southern New Jersey. Descriptions vary but are often similar. It has the head of a horse or a goat, and it stands upright with long hoofed legs and short arms. It is sometimes described as having black fur. It has thick, leathery, bat-like wings and is between 3 and 6 feet tall. It has terrifying glowing red eyes and emits a blood-curdling screech that terrifies those that hear it. It lives in the wetlands during the day and often leaves strange hooved tracks that cannot be identified as any other animal. Sometimes it is seen carrying large prey. An early recorded sighting was in 1813 by Joseph Bonaparte, brother of Napoleon. He was out hunting on a winter's day when he saw some strange animal tracks. They appeared hooved, but as if from a two-legged creature. He reported that they looked like a donkey had walked on its hind legs. He followed the trail and was surprised to find it ended suddenly, as if the beast had taken flight. Then he heard a hissing behind him. He spun round to see a huge winged beast with a horse's head staring at him and screeching. They locked eyes for several seconds, but before he could think to raise his rifle, the creature swooped at him and flew away into the sky. When he heard the legends of the Jersey Devil, he often returned to hunt it, but never saw it again. In the early 1840s, a large number of farmers reported hearing screeching and howling at night, and their sheep were being slaughtered or found missing. They formed a group to track down the creature, which they supposed could be a wolf or coyote, but they only found strange hooved tracks, which stopped abruptly, as if the creature had taken flight. In 1909, there were multiple encounters over a large area. It all started before dawn on January 16th, when a man called Thack Cozzens saw the Jersey Devil flying along the road with glowing red eyes. Later that day, several people in nearby Bristol saw the creature, describing it as winged, horse-headed and shrieking a high-pitched scream. The local police officer, James Sackville, shot at the creature, but it appeared unaffected. The town postmaster also saw the creature and heard it release a high-pitched scream. When the sun came up, strange hoof prints in the snow could be seen throughout the town. Later that day, Navy Commander Stephen Decatur claimed they had shot the creature with a cannonball, but it had no effect. This caused mass panic over the next few days, and there were over 1,000 sightings. Schools were closed, and the region was put on high alert. On January 17th, the Loudon family in Bristol found hooved tracks outside their house and reported that the contents of their rubbish bin had been mostly consumed. The strange tracks disappeared suddenly as if the creature had taken flight. The tracks were found on roofs and up vertical faces such as buildings and trees. Police dogs refused to follow the tracks.
We were awakened at 2:30 a.m. by a screeching sound and watched a creature for 10 minutes from our window. It was about 3.5 feet high, with a head like a collie dog and a face like a horse. It had a long neck, wings about 2 feet long. Its back legs were like those of a crane, and it had horse's hooves. It walked on its back legs and held up 2 short front legs with paws on them. It didn't use the front legs at all while we were watching. My wife and I were scared, I tell you, but I managed to open the window and say, "Shoo!" and it turned around, barked at me, and flew away.
Later that day in Camden, a group of people claimed the Jersey Devil barked at them and then flew away. On January 21st in West Collingswood, a group of firemen encountered the Jersey Devil and fired their hose at it. The creature retreated, but then returned and charged at them before flying away. Later that night in Camden, a woman witnessed the creature attacking her dog. She beat the creature with a broom until it flew away. The police were called, and a large crowd gathered. The whole group heard screams from the woods and then saw the creature. The police shot at it, but it flew away. On January 22nd, Officer Louis Strayer of the Camden Police Department saw the creature drinking water from a horse's trough. His colleague drew the now famous sketch of the creature based on his own sighting. The mass sightings came to an end in February, when a rail worker saw the creature fly into electrical wires, causing an explosion large enough to melt train tracks for several feet in every direction. No remains could be found. In 1927, a cab driver was driving through the Pine Barrens at night when he got a flat tire. In the pitch darkness, he got out of the car to change it. Suddenly, a creature appeared from the woods, screeching a blood-curdling scream. He rushed back into the cab and drove away at speed, but the creature was on the roof of the car trying to get at him. He eventually managed to shake it off and reported the incident to the police. In 1980, a farmer in the Wharton State Forest reported that all his pigs had been killed in the night. Unlike any other animal attack, the back of the pigs' heads had been eaten, as if a creature had pinned them down from behind and then moved on to the next one. Around the same time, a group of dirt bikers heard terrifying, inhuman screams coming from the forest. Most of the group decided to leave the forest, but those that remained continued to hear the screaming and screeching for the rest of the night. They stopped in a biker bar on the way home, and the bartender told them that those kinds of sounds are heard all the time, and that they had heard the Jersey Devil.
I was driving through the Pine Barrens when I saw a huge animal in the middle of the road. It had thick, black, matted fur, but it also had horns, like the devil. It stood over 6 feet tall. We stared at each other for several minutes. I did not dare to move my car, afraid that it may try to attack me. After our staring contest was over, the creature went back into the forest.
In the 1990s, Harry Leeds, a direct descendant of Mother Leeds, reported his own sighting of the creature.
I see this heaviest creature looking at me. It was hard to identify at nighttime, but the most distinguishing factor of that encounter was the piercing red eyes.
2 cars driving ahead of me had to suddenly slam on their brakes when a disgusting creature emerged from the woods. It was hairless, with strange short ears and hooved feet. It towered over the road, standing nearly 10 feet tall. It looked like every classic drawing of the Jersey Devil that I had always seen, and that it galloped at high speeds across the highway. I had seen plenty of deer driving at night before, and this was absolutely no animal I had ever seen before.
In the summer of 2006, some friends of mine and I took a ride to the Pine Barrens. We weren't looking for anything in particular, but were hoping we would see something along the lines of proof of the existence of the Jersey Devil. We were on Bulltown Road near Batstow Village, where we had heard of a lot of sightings and some strange things going on around there. As we were driving, we passed by an old abandoned house and thought nothing of it. After a while of not seeing much aside from deer and an occasional owl, we decided to turn around. As we went by that old house, we saw what appeared to be bright green eyes peering out of a window. Armed with just flashlights, we began to drive up to the house, but then the eyes disappeared. Next, a noise caught the attention of me and my friend, who was in the front seat with me. She shone her flashlight in time for us to see something swoop over the car. By the time we could react to it, nothing was around. We went outside to investigate, but all that could be found were hoof prints in the sandy soil. The prints were too big to be deer and too small to be horse. As far as what swooped over the car, it was dark in color but was large, larger than any bird that I know of.
So what is the historical evidence for the origin story of the Jersey Devil? There are records of a Daniel Leeds naming 12 children in his will, dated 1736, a year after the birth of the alleged 13th. But the most likely story comes from a rivalry between Benjamin Franklin and a man called Titan Leeds. It is widely accepted that Franklin spread rumors about Leeds in order to discredit him, and these may have led to the belief that he was a drunk whose wife gave birth to a demon. The inhabitants of the Pine Barrens were named Pine Rats or Pinies because they lived in remote cabins and scavenged in the barrens. This would explain why livestock went missing. They were often outlaws or escaped slaves, and so the woods were not a place to be at night. This may be why the campfire stories started, to scare children not to venture into the woods. The Jersey Devil also makes a convenient legend to explain why cows no longer provide milk. It is said that the devil breathes on them. or for large-scale disappearances of fish and livestock. It's possible that the sightings could be large owls or birds of prey carrying smaller dead animals in their mouths being mistaken for one creature. A large number of these sightings may have been part of an elaborate hoax carried out by Norman Jeffries at the time. In order to boost attendance at a local museum, he purchased a kangaroo from a circus and glued fake claws and wings to it. He then claimed that the Jersey Devil had been captured and displayed this creature live at the museum. 20 years later, he admitted the hoax, and also that he had written many fictional sightings at the time in the local press to boost attendance. Certainly the local area now benefits from tourists seeking an encounter with the Jersey Devil. The area also claims to have sightings of Bigfoot and glowing floating orbs. Maybe the legend is enough to instill a sense of fear whenever the shriek of a vixen is heard, or the silhouette of an owl swoops above, and the myth is perpetuated. For me, the 1909 mass hysteria event is much more difficult to explain. So many witnesses saw the same creature at the same time and in daylight, and the sightings were spread over a large area and over a number of days. But by that time, the creature would have been over 170 years old. Recent sightings were reported in 2015, making it now over 280 years old. Photographic evidence is always unconvincing, and yet if a mass sighting were to occur today, as in 1909, we would have numerous HD videos and photos of the event. So we can only wait and see. What do you think? Have you seen the Jersey Devil? If you have had a true supernatural experience, please send it to us at IntriguingRealms@gmail.com, and we may feature it on the channel.